Hey, it's Jati Jones, and today I'm going to share one of my favorite excerpts from the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Now, this book isn't only about how to accumulate wealth in terms of money, it's how to become a successful man. So, today what we're going to talk about is how to get what you want in life. So, what I'm going to share with you right now is an excerpt that's really inspiring and that really teaches you how to move through the world where you have that mindset where you don't tolerate defeat and you make sure that you finish what you started. So this excerpt is called A 50-Cent Lesson in Persistence. So this story is how a little girl conquered a full-grown man. Now, before I read this excerpt, there are a few points that I want you to really pay attention to. This little story is about a young colored girl, okay? How a young colored girl dominated a full-grown white male. So there are a few layers to that. Number one, a little girl conquered a full-grown man. And on top of that, this book goes way back to the time of when slavery had just ended, or, you know, where the blacks were still slaves or just coming out of slavery. So that huge power difference between a white male and then a black colored child. So keep those two things in mind, because those 2 points, the fact that she's colored and the fact that she was a little girl and the fact that he was white and he was a full-grown male, those are key distinctions to pay attention to in this story, because that makes the story all that more, much more impactful. A 50-cent lesson in persistence. One afternoon, a man was helping his uncle grind wheat in an old-fashioned mill. The uncle operated a large farm on which a number of colored sharecrop farmers lived. Quietly, the door was open, and a small colored child, the daughter of a tenant, walked in and took her place near the door. The uncle looked up, saw the child, and barked roughly at her. "What do you want?" Meekly, the child replied, "My mommy say, give her 50 cents. "I'll not do it," the uncle retorted. "Now you run on home." "Yes, sir," the child replied, but she did not move. The uncle went ahead with his work, so busily engaged that he did not pay enough attention to the child to observe that she did not leave. When he looked up and saw her still standing there, he yelled at her, "I told you to go on home. Now go, or I'll take a switch to you." The little girl said, "Yes, sir," but she did not budge. The uncle dropped a sack of grain he was about to pour into the mill hopper, picked up a barrel stave, and started toward the child with an expression on his face that indicated trouble. When the uncle reached the spot where the child was standing, she quickly stepped forward 1 step, looked up into his eyes, and screamed at the top of her lungs, "My mommy's gotta have that 15 cents! The uncle stopped, looked at her for a minute, and then slowly laid the barrel stave on the floor. He put his hand in his pocket, took out $50, and gave it to her. The child took the money and then slowly backed toward the door, never taking her eyes off the man whom she had just conquered. After she had gone, the uncle sat down on a box and looked out the window into space for more than 10 minutes. He was pondering with awe over the whipping he had just taken by this little girl. That was the first time in all his experience that he had seen a colored child deliberately master an adult white person. How did she do it? What happened to his uncle that caused him to lose his fierceness and become as docile as a lamb? What strange power did this child use that made her master of the situation? What's the lesson to be learned here? The lesson to be learned here is that when a human being makes a definite decision, a definite choice to get what it is that they want, and they're willing to die for it, then what happens is that the obstacles in the world fall away and the universe gives them what they want. The world cannot resist the will of a man who will stake his existence on getting what he wants. You see, the magic power that that little girl had was that before she even entered the room, she knew that she had to walk out of there with that 50 cents because she saw her mother struggling, and for whatever reason, she knew that her mom needed that 50 cents. And notice, this is not dependent on age. A young child can understand this and implement this. A full-grown man can implement this. If you want something and you stand behind it and you don't take no for an answer from the world, and you are determined, you have a definite decision that you will get this, then that is when life will give it to you. Now, you still need hard work, you still need persistence, you still need to be met with temporary failure. Sometimes it'll take longer, sometimes shorter. But that attitude, that mindset, that heart, that's what allows a man to manifest the things in his life that he wants. So that's a very impactful story. Every time I read that story, I get a little choked up because it touches me here. Because there's so much depth and truth to that. If you approach your life, if you approach every day, if you approach your most important goals in your life with that spirit, with that definiteness of decision, where you're not going to back down, you're not going to step aside, you're facing it squarely and you're going to go for it. That's when life's going to open up for you, and that's when life's going to start working for you. If you want something, make a definite decision to get it, and then stand behind that decision with every fiber of your being. And when you come into the world like that, you are unstoppable. This is Jat T. Jones. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.